You knew the whole time. I knew you were not supposed to be in my car. I knew you were afraid. I did not know you would become the one thing I cannot afford to lose. Thelma Norris, 27, gets into the wrong car after finishing a late shift at a fish market stall in Daegu. The man in the back seat runs a cold chain pharmaceutical empire worth billions and a criminal organization that moves through this city like blood through veins. The man waiting for her outside, the one who has followed her home from every shift for weeks, just lost track of her. Stay with this one, because the car ride is only the beginning. A woman who used to compete with a bow and arrow, now working circus performances and hardware store shifts an ocean away from her aunt's spare room in West Charlotte. A Korean Mafia boss whose rare immune condition means he cannot receive several standard vaccines. A man who controls the nation's medicine logistics and trusts almost no one with the truth of his own body. And Erica Tran, the ex who will not accept that Thelma left, who treats her refusal as a debt, who stands just far enough back to stay legal while making sure she never forgets he is there. When someone has already decided you belong to them, what happens when you accidentally fall under the protection of someone far more dangerous than the threat behind you? This story does not end the way you think it will. A lighthouse keeper's cottage near the Seoraksan foothills. A public gathering where the man who followed her plans to finally expose her, to humiliate her in front of everyone who matters. A bow she has not touched in years. And the moment when Donghyun Wang, 29, heir to an empire built on keeping people alive, realizes the woman who stumbled into his backseat might be the only person who has ever seen him without asking for proof. Have you ever gotten into something you could not explain your way out of and found the one person who did not need you to explain? 3 weeks earlier, the driver saw her first. A woman in a dark coat moving fast along the curb outside the Seomun fish market, head down, arms tight against her ribs. She was walking the way people walk when they know someone is watching. Not running. Running draws attention. But moving with a purpose that said she had counted the steps between the market's back exit and the main road and knew exactly how many she had left. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. His employer sat in the back seat with his phone face down on his thigh, looking at nothing in particular, which meant he was looking at everything. The woman reached the black sedan at the curb, pulled the rear door open, and got in. She was already pulling the door shut when she realized. The interior smelled like leather and something faintly medicinal, not antiseptic, something colder. The seats were heated. The windows were tinted dark enough that she could barely see the streetlights outside. And the man in the back seat was not her Uber driver. He was watching her with the patient attention of someone who had never once needed to rush in his life. "This is not your car," he said. His voice was quiet, pleasant, even. The kind of pleasant that did not need to raise itself to be heard. Thelma Norris, 27, 5'6", originally from Atlanta, but most recently from her aunt's spare room in West Charlotte along the Beatty's Ford Road corridor, a block from the record shop where she first heard the songs that shaped her. Aerial performer. Circus work when she could get it. Hardware store shifts when she could not. Currently employed at a fish market stall in Daegu because the visa was the visa and the money was the money, and she had stopped being particular about dignity somewhere around month 4. She had been in Korea for 11 months. She had been running from Erica Tran for 9 of them. "I know," she said. "I apologize. I thought you were someone else." She reached for the door handle. Wait. She stopped. Not because he commanded it. Because his voice had shifted by half a degree, from pleasant to something that might have been curious. And curiosity from a man in a car like this was not something you ignored. "You are afraid," he said. It was not a question. "I'm late for a ride." "You are afraid of something outside this car, not inside it." He tilted his head, studying her the way someone might study a chess problem that had just become interesting. "Who are you running from?" "Nobody." "You looked over your shoulder 11 times between the market exit and this door. I counted." She did not ask how he had seen her through the tinted windows. She did not ask why he had been watching. She was too busy calculating how quickly she could get out of this car and whether the man outside, the one she had been avoiding, had seen her get in. "My ex," she said. "He's been waiting outside my workplace, every shift, for weeks." The man in the back seat was silent for 4 seconds. Then he said, "Describe him." "American. My height, brown hair. He wears a gray jacket even when it's too warm for one." "The man standing near the bus shelter, 40 feet from the market entrance. He has been there for the past 2 hours." She felt her stomach drop. "You saw him?" "I see most things." He picked up his phone, glanced at the screen, set it down again. "What is your name?" "Thelma. Thelma Norris." "Thelma Norris." He said it like he was filing it somewhere. "I'm Donghyun Wang. This is my car. That is my driver. And the man in the gray jacket is currently walking toward us with a phone in his hand, recording." Thelma turned to look through the rear window. She could barely make out the shape of a man moving between the parked cars, but she knew the walk. She had memorized it the way prey memorizes the gait of a predator. Erica Tran, 29 years old. 9. Her ex-boyfriend from her circus days in Atlanta, back when she still thought love meant someone who paid attention to every detail of your life. She had not understood then that attention could be a cage, that someone could track your schedule, your friends, your location, your silence, and call it devotion. She had left him 14 months ago, moved to Charlotte, stayed with her aunt, took shifts at a hardware store near the light rail station, and spent her evenings practicing on a pull-up bar she had bolted to her aunt's back porch. When that was not far enough, she took a job teaching English in Korea. Erica had found her anyway. He had shown up outside her apartment in Daegu 8 months ago. He never approached, never touched her. He just stood there, watching, close enough that she could see the gray of his jacket, far enough back that she could never prove anything to anyone who mattered. He rotated his spots: the bus shelter, the corner store, the alley beside the market. He was patient in the way that men who believe they are owed something are always patient. He was walking toward the car now. "He can't see me through these windows," she said. "Right?" "No." "Then I should get out. If he sees me in a car like this, he'll think I have money. He'll think I have something to take." Donghyun Wang, 29, looked at her for a long moment. His face was difficult to read. Not cold, not warm. Something in between, like a room that had been carefully climate-controlled to reveal nothing about the season outside. "You work at the fish market," he said. "Yes." "The stall near the east entrance. You handle the oysters." "How do you know that?" "I own the building the market operates in." "I receive reports." He paused. "You are very fast with a shucking knife. The manager noted it. She did not know what to say to that. "I also know," he continued, "that you have been late to 7 of your last 9 shifts because you take a longer route to avoid the bus shelter. That you have asked twice for schedule changes and been denied. That you filed a complaint with the local police 3 months ago and were told there was nothing they could do because he has not made contact." "You know all of that?" "I know everything that happens in my buildings." He said it without arrogance, a simple fact like the temperature outside. "What I do not know is why you got into my car." "Because I wasn't looking. Because I saw a black sedan and I thought it was my ride and I didn't check because I was trying to move fast enough that he wouldn't follow me. And now you are here. And now I'm here." Erica was 30 feet away. She could see the phone in his hand, the way he held it at chest height, recording. He did this sometimes. Recorded her from a distance. Sent the videos to her old email, the one she had stopped checking. Proof that he was still watching. "If you get out now," Donghyun said, "he will see you. He will follow you. He will know which direction you walk, which bus you take, how long it takes you to reach wherever you are going." "I know. If you stay, I will drive you somewhere he cannot follow." She turned to look at him. His face was still unreadable, but something in his posture had shifted. He was leaning very slightly toward her, not crowding her, just present in a way he had not been a moment ago. "Why would you do that?" "Because you got into my car," he said, "and I do not allow people who enter my care to be harmed." She should have said no. She should have thanked him and gotten out and taken her chances with the man in the gray jacket, the man who had followed her across an ocean, the man who believed her leaving was a wound he was entitled to repay. Instead, she said, "Okay." Donghyun Wang nodded once. Then he spoke to his driver in Korean, too fast for her to follow, and the car pulled away from the curb. In the side mirror, she watched Erika Tran stop walking, watched him lower his phone, watched him stand there in the yellow light of the street lamp, his face slack with something that might have been confusion. She had never seen him confused before. It felt, for one brief and dangerous moment, like freedom. The car took her to a hotel in the Suseong district, not the lobby. A side entrance with a keypad that Donghyun's driver knew by heart. A service elevator that opened directly into a hallway with only 2 doors. "You will stay here tonight," Donghyun said. "The room is registered under a company name. He cannot trace it." Thelma stood in the hallway, her coat still smelling of fish and brine, her hands still raw from the morning's oyster work. The carpet beneath her feet was the kind of soft that cost more than her monthly rent. "I can't afford this." "I did not ask you to pay." "That's not the point." Donghyun looked at her. For the first time since she had gotten into his car, something like surprise crossed his face. It was gone in half a second, but she had seen it. "What is the point?" he asked. "I don't take things from men I don't know. It creates obligations. And if I told you there were no obligations, then I would wonder what you were actually buying." He was quiet for a long moment. The hallway was silent. No other guests, no staff, no sound except the soft hum of the climate control. "You are careful," he said finally. "That is wise." "I've had to be." "Then let me be clear." He reached into his jacket and produced a card, plain white, a phone number printed on it in black ink, nothing else. "If you choose to stay here tonight, you may leave whenever you wish. The door locks from the inside. No one will enter without your permission. In the morning, the driver will take you wherever you need to go, and you will never hear from me again unless you call this number." She took the card. The paper was heavy, expensive. "And if I call, then I will answer." He did not say anything else. He simply nodded once, walked back to the elevator, and was gone. Thelma stayed. She did not call the number the next day, or the day after. She went back to work at the fish market, took her usual shifts, handled the oysters with the same efficiency that had gotten her noticed in the first place. She varied her routes. She watched the bus shelter, the corner store, the alley beside the market. Erika was there. He was always there. But something had changed. He was closer now. The first week, it was subtle. He stood at the bus shelter instead of beside it. He waited at the corner store entrance instead of across the street. He was still within legal distance, still careful, but the gap between them had shrunk. The second week, he started walking in the same direction as her when she left, not following. Just walking. 30 feet behind, then 20, then 15. Close enough that she could hear his footsteps on the pavement. Far enough that she could never prove intent. By the third week, he was waiting at her apartment building, not inside, not at her door, just outside, on the sidewalk, smoking a cigarette he never finished. He would watch her approach, watch her unlock the lobby door, watch her disappear inside. Then he would stay there for another hour, sometimes 2, his phone in his hand, recording nothing and everything. Thelma stopped sleeping. She lay awake at night, listening for footsteps in the hallway. She checked the locks on her door 3 times before bed, then got up an hour later to check them again. She started taking her phone with her to the bathroom, just in case. She started mapping escape routes in her head. The fire stairs, the back exit, the window that opened onto the alley, 4 stories up. She had done this before, in Charlotte. She knew the math. She knew how long it took for exhaustion to become carelessness. How long it took for carelessness to become a mistake. She had 9 months of practice running from this man, and she was running out of distance. On the 17th day, she called the number on the card. Donghyun answered on the 2nd ring. "He's getting closer," she said. No greeting, no explanation. She did not have the energy for either. "I know." "You know?" "I have had someone watching. You have not been alone." She did not know what to say to that. She sat on the edge of her bed in her small apartment, the phone pressed to her ear, and felt something loosen in her chest that she had not known was tight. "Why?" she asked. "Because you got into my car. That's not a reason. It is the only one I have." He was quiet for a moment. She could hear something in the background. The sound of papers, maybe. A pen on a desk. He was working. It was after midnight. "There is an event," he said. "A fundraiser for the Pharmaceutical Association, 3 weeks from now. I am required to attend." "What does that have to do with me?" "If you came with me, you would be photographed. Your presence would be documented. Your connection to my organization would become public record. And that would help how? Because the man following you is operating on the assumption that you are alone, that you have no resources, no protection, no one who would notice if something happened." His voice did not change, but something in it hardened. "He is wrong, but he does not know that yet. If he saw you beside me, in a room full of people who matter, he would understand that touching you would cost him more than he could afford." Thelma closed her eyes. "You're asking me to pretend to be with you. I'm asking you to let him see that you are not unprotected. What he assumes from that is his business. And what do you get out of it?" The pause lasted 4 seconds. She counted. "Company," he said. "I am required to attend these events alone. It is expected, but I do not prefer it." "You could take anyone." "I could." He did not elaborate. He did not need to. Thelma thought about the hotel room with the lock on the inside, the card with the number he had given her without asking for anything in return, the way he had counted the times she looked over her shoulder, not to prove anything, just because he noticed. "Okay," she said. The fundraiser was held at a hotel in Gangnam. Chandeliers that looked like frozen waterfalls. Men in suits that cost more than her annual hardware store salary. Women in dresses that moved like water and probably cost twice as much. Donghyun arrived exactly on time. He wore black. He looked like he had been born in that room and simply chosen to let everyone else use it. He did not touch her when she stepped out of the car. He did not offer his arm or put his hand on her back or do any of the things that men did to signal ownership. He simply walked beside her, matching her pace, and let the proximity speak for itself. People noticed. She could feel the attention moving across her skin like static. Photographers at the entrance. Guests in the lobby turning to look, then quickly pretending they had not. She was wearing a dress that Donghyun's assistant had sent to her apartment 2 days earlier. Dark green, simple, expensive enough that she had checked the label 3 times to make sure she was not hallucinating. "You are uncomfortable," Donghyun said quietly. They were standing near a window, far enough from the crowd that they could speak without being overheard. "I don't belong here. You belong wherever you choose to stand." That's a nice sentiment. It's not true. It is the only truth that matters. He picked up a glass of something clear from a passing tray. Water, she realized, not champagne. "You worked the night shift last night." You handled 47 pounds of oysters between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m. You walked home alone because your usual bus route was blocked by construction. You took the long way through the university district because you know he does not like to follow you through well-lit areas. She stared at him. How do you know that? I told you. I have someone watching. Watching me or watching him? Both. She should have been angry. She should have felt invaded, surveilled, controlled. But the way he said it, the matter-of-fact precision, the complete absence of possessiveness. He was not tracking her because he thought he owned her. He was tracking her because he had decided, for reasons she did not fully understand, that her safety was a problem worth solving. You could have told me. Would you have let me? No? Then I did not tell you. A photographer drifted past, camera raised. Donghyun did not pose. He did not smile. He simply looked at Thelma as if she were the only thing in the room worth seeing, and the photographer captured that instead. That photograph would appear in 3 business publications by morning, in 5 more by the end of the week. Someone would identify her. Someone would start asking questions. And somewhere in Daegu, Erika Tran would see it. This was the plan. This was exactly what Donghyun had intended. But standing there in the light of those frozen waterfall chandeliers, watching him not touch her while making it perfectly clear that he would allow no one else to touch her either, Thelma felt something shift in the architecture of her life. She had spent 11 months being watched by a man who believed her leaving was a wound he was entitled to collect on. Now she was being watched by a man who had never asked her to stay. The difference was everything. She did not know, then, what Erika was planning. She did not know about the files he had been assembling, the photographs, the recordings, the narrative he had constructed about her mental state, her instability, her history. She did not know that he had already identified the Pharmaceutical Association's next major event, a product launch in Seoul where Donghyun would be required to speak. She did not know that Erika had reached out to a journalist with a story about the American woman who had wormed her way into a Korean billionaire's orbit, a story designed to make her look desperate, manipulative, dangerous. She did not know that Erika believed, with the absolute certainty of a man who had never been wrong in his life, that all he needed to do was wait for the right moment and the right audience, and she would be destroyed. She knew only that when Donghyun looked at her across that crowded room, he did not look away. And for the first time in 9 months, she let herself look back. The product launch was held in a converted exhibition hall on the 43rd floor of a building in Gangnam that Donghyun's family had built. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A stage with a single podium. 300 guests in chairs arranged with military precision, and every one of them worth more than the building Thelma had lived in for the past 11 months. She saw Erika the moment he entered. He was wearing a suit. She had never seen him in a suit before. The gray jacket was gone, replaced by something dark and expensive that did not fit quite right across the shoulders. He had a press badge clipped to his lapel and a woman beside him with a camera and a notebook, the journalist. The one he had been feeding his story to for weeks. Thelma watched him work the room, watched him shake hands with people who did not know who he was, watched him position himself near the front row, close enough to the stage that he would be visible when the cameras turned. Donghyun was at the podium, speaking about cold chain logistics and vaccine accessibility in rural areas. His voice was calm, measured. He did not look at Erika. He did not need to. The journalist raised her hand during the question period. Mr. Wang, there have been reports that your recent public appearances with an American woman are part of a calculated image rehabilitation campaign. Can you comment on allegations that she has a history of unstable behavior and manipulative relationships? The room went quiet, 300 people holding their breath. Donghyun did not answer immediately. He looked at the journalist for 4 seconds, then at Erika, then at Thelma. I can, he said, but I think you should hear from someone else first. A screen behind him flickered to life. The footage was grainy, time-stamped, obviously from a security camera. A man in a gray jacket standing outside a fish market at 2 a.m. The same man standing outside an apartment building at 6 a.m. The same man following a woman through the university district at 11 p.m. Staying exactly 15 feet behind her, close enough to be felt, far enough to claim coincidence. 9 months of footage, compressed into 90 seconds. Erica stood up. His face had gone the color of old paper. "That's not," he started. "There is more," Donghyun said. His voice had not changed. Still calm, still measured. "Shall I continue?" The next clip was audio. Erica's voice, recorded from a phone call he had made to the journalist 3 weeks earlier. "She'll crack eventually. She always does. I just need the right audience. Once people see her for what she is, she'll have nowhere to go. She'll have to come back." The journalist was staring at Erica now. Her notebook was closed. "You told me she was dangerous," she said. "You told me she had restraining orders against her in 3 states. She does. She—" Erica stopped. Started again. "This is a misunderstanding." "There are no restraining orders," Donghyun said. "I had my legal team check. Every court in every jurisdiction Miss Norris has lived in. Nothing. You fabricated a history of instability because you could not accept that she chose to leave." Erica moved. It happened fast. He shoved past the journalist, knocked over a chair, and lunged toward the emergency exit near the stage. But the exit was locked from the outside, and when he turned, 2 of Donghyun's security team were already moving to intercept him. He grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall mount, held it like a weapon. "Nobody touches me," he said. His voice had gone high and thin. "I know what you are. I know what your family does. You think I'm afraid of you?" The security team stopped. Donghyun raised one hand, and they stepped back. "Erica," Thelma said. She had not planned to speak. She had not planned any of this. But she was standing now, moving toward the front of the room, and Erica was watching her with the same expression he had worn outside her apartment for 9 months. Patient, possessive, certain that eventually she would return to him, because that was what she owed. "Put it down," she said. "You don't get to tell me what to do. You don't get to leave and pretend I don't exist." "I'm not pretending. I left because you made it impossible to stay." "I loved you." "No." Her voice was steady. She had not known it would be steady. "You watched me. You tracked me. You followed me across an ocean because you decided that my leaving was a debt you were entitled to collect. That's not love. That's ownership, and I am not something you own." The fire extinguisher was still in his hands. The room was still silent. 300 people watching a woman in a dark green dress face down the man who had made her life a prison for over a year. Donghyun spoke quietly to someone beside him. Thelma caught the movement in her peripheral vision, the subtle gesture that meant his people were ready to act. "No," she said. "Not like that." Donghyun looked at her. "He needs to answer for what he did," she said. "But not to you, not to your people, to the police, to a court. To a system that treats what he did as the crime it actually is. He will claim self-defense. He will claim he felt threatened. Then let him claim it. Let a judge hear the recordings. Let a jury see the footage. Let it be documented and official and permanent." She turned back to Erica. "You wanted an audience," she said. "You wanted everyone here to see me humiliated, broken, destroyed. Instead, they saw you, they heard you, they know exactly who you are now." The fire extinguisher dropped to the floor with a sound like a bell. Erica's shoulders crumpled. He looked for one moment like a man who had finally understood that the story he had been telling himself for 14 months was not the story anyone else had been living. The police arrived 11 minutes later. They took him quietly, without drama, through a service entrance that kept him away from the photographers who had gathered in the lobby. The journalist deleted her story. The guests returned to their conversations. The product launch resumed as if nothing had happened. But something had. Donghyun found her on the terrace afterward, standing in the cold with her coat wrapped tight around her shoulders. The city spread out below them like a circuit board, all light and angles and purpose. "You could have let me handle it," he said. "I know. It would have been faster, cleaner." "I know that too." He was quiet for a moment. The wind carried the sound of traffic from somewhere far below. "Why didn't you?" Thelma looked at him. His face was still difficult to read, but something in his posture had shifted. He was waiting for her answer as if it mattered more than anything he had heard that night. "Because I spent 11 months letting fear make my choices," she said. "I don't want to spend the rest of my life letting someone else's power make them for me, even if that power is on my side." He nodded slowly. "That," he said, "is why I could not look away." 6 months later, the lighthouse keeper's cottage near the Seoraksan foothills. The building had been abandoned for years before Donghyun bought it. Now the windows were new, the kitchen held warmth, and the view of the coast stretched unbroken to the horizon. Thelma stood at the counter, shucking oysters with the same efficiency that had gotten her noticed at the fish market. Old habits, good ones. Donghyun watched her from the doorway. He did not announce himself. He never did. But she knew the sound of his breathing by now, the particular weight of his presence in a room. "You knew the whole time," she said without turning around. "That night in the car, you knew I was running. I knew you were not supposed to be in my car. I knew you were afraid." He moved closer, not touching her, just present. "I did not know you would become the one thing I cannot afford to lose." She set down the knife, turned to face him. "You still haven't asked me to stay." "No." "Why not?" "Because I would rather you choose it every day than promise it once." The light through the window caught the edge of his jaw, the careful stillness of his hands at his sides. He was not a man who touched easily. But when he reached for her now, his fingers finding hers with the same precision he brought to everything, she understood that this was what trust looked like when it cost something. She had learned that safety is not the absence of danger. It is the presence of someone who sees the danger and stands beside you anyway. She had learned that love is not possession. It is proximity without demand. She had learned that the hardest thing is not escaping the person who hurt you. It is believing afterward that you deserve to be seen by someone who will not. Erica Tran pled guilty to stalking charges in a Seoul courtroom 4 months after his arrest. He served 14 months. Thelma did not attend the sentencing. She did not need to watch him fall. She only needed to know he could not follow her anymore. The cottage smelled like salt and wood smoke. The oysters were fresh. And outside, the lighthouse stood dark and patient against the winter sky, no longer guiding anyone home because the woman who lived in its shadow had already arrived. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment and tell me. After everything, do you still believe someone can see you completely and stay? I really want to know. If you are new here, subscribe and turn on notifications. And I promise the next story will be even harder to walk away from. Thank you for watching until the very end. I will see you in the next one.